Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be diving into a big question that a lot of people have when it comes to the current housing market with, low inventory, inflated prices, and higher interest rates. It is making it very challenging for people to find the home that makes sense for them, whether you currently live in town here or you're coming in from out of state like a lot of you might be doing. So the big question is trying to figure out, should you wait and try to find a house that fits your needs that is listed, or do you make that house on your own, whether that is remodeling your current home, finding a house that needs to be remodeled, finding a potential home that needs to be torn down altogether and rebuilt. We're going to go through all the scenarios that might make sense for people who are in that situation and need other options besides what's currently listed on the market right now. So we're bringing in a local builder. We're going to talk through all these scenarios with him and kind of go through all the important details that you might need to know when making a decision on these before knowing if it's really right for you. So if you think that might be helpful, then stay tuned. All right, guys, I'm here with Bill Knutson with Community Development, and we are at one of his projects right now. Bill, with all the real estate transactions being as low as they have, and with everything being sales so slow, your business is booming, and I want to talk about that because a lot of people, they're feeling like maybe they're stuck and don't have a lot of options, so people are reaching out trying to come up with some ideas. So tell us about what you're doing right now and what's keeping you so busy.
Of course. So, of course, people come to us with a new construction in the Arcadia area, Paradise Valley, Scottsdale. So that's been going well. However, we've seen a little decrease in that lately and a huge rise in remodeling. So I think with the high interest rates, high cost of money, people sitting in a home with a low mortgage, low percentage interest rate of their mortgage, they've got cash to spend and they want to come in and redo their house to add some value.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think, we're hearing a lot of people who are coming in and they're looking at what some of the prices are and what the interest rates are. And it just seems like it makes more sense to potentially take what you already have and improve it and get what you want versus try to go find something that's more expensive that you don't want. So exactly. It seems like there's
no inventory, nothing to buy. So why not take where you are and make it everything you want it to be?
Yeah, and obviously everything has to kind of come together. The numbers have to work. It's not easy for everybody. So let's talk about like the initial conversations you have with people, because not everybody's going to be a fit for this. So we're trying to figure out, number one, like, does this make sense for you? And number two, like, how does the process work and like what makes sense? So talk about the initial conversation that you have with people.
So when the people come in, they want to know, what they can afford. So they give us a budget, we look at their house and we can see, what kind of scope we can do and try to give them a good recommendation too. From my opinion, it makes sense to remodel everything at once. Get your best cost savings. It's the least convenient. If you have to move out and rent a house for a short amount of time, then you can do that and we can handle everything. I find that when you're piecing together things, it can be detrimental. And if you have an older home, but just a nice couple bathrooms, it might not add the value that you're looking for.
So for example, I think what Bill's talking about is if somebody wants to come in and say, hey, I just want to remodel my kitchen right now, or I just want to remodel my bathroom right now, and then I'll do the rest later, that tends to be more of a challenge for people later on.
Correct.
Understandable from a budget perspective, but what might make sense now budget-wise might not make sense in the future.
Exactly. And it's also hard too if people are wanting to stay in their home.
Right.
So the construction starts very early, works all day, it's loud, it's messy, it's dusty. No matter how great your plasticking off of areas is, dust gets out, gets into your closets, into your clothes. So we really try to recommend people move out during the remodel process.
Yeah, this process is not easy for anybody, but I think when people have to look at options and they look at what's on the market, they look at the cost versus, hey, I'm going to move out of my house and potentially do it exactly the way they want, that's when that makes sense. So we're going to get into three scenarios that people basically deal with right now, or three types of situations that people will bring you on and kind of use your services. So we're going to talk about cosmetic remodel, somebody who wants to come in and just completely do a full cosmetic remodel on their house. We're going to talk about somebody who might want to do like some structural changes to the house, or a full gut remodel. And then we're going to talk about people who might want to just tear down their house and start from scratch, because we're seeing a lot of that as well.
A whole new build situation.
All right, well, let's go and get into those.
Sounds great.
All right, so we are going to start with a new build, because we're here at one of your new build projects right now, and we're in Arcadia. So we're going to go kind of walk around and kind of talk about, some of the things that people should expect regarding the process. So let's walk in, and then let's kind of just talk about the process of what people need to think about if they were going to basically tear their house down and start from scratch. Like, how do people get to that point?
So here in Arcadia, a lot of the homes are built back in the 1950s. They're smaller homes on a big lot, and there's just no way to make them good enough to be what the neighboring comps value them at. So when that's the case, you've got low 8-foot ceilings. Maybe it's only a 2,000 square foot house on a half-acre lot. And really what is the best value in this neighborhood is, 5,000-6,000 square foot houses, big 10, 12 plus foot ceilings. And so in order to do that, we need to start over.
Yeah. And so we're seeing that in Arcadia quite a bit. It's definitely a popular place because the numbers make sense. Mm-hmm. We're seeing a lot of that in Phoenix as well. So or in Central Phoenix altogether. So Correct. Not just Arcadia, but in Central Phoenix and certain parts of Scottsdale as well.
So we have all the older neighborhoods is where it seems to make sense. So your first part of the process is putting your team together.
Yep.
So hiring a good architect, interior designer, landscape architect, and of course the builder. So that's your team to design and put together a well thought out floor plan, elevation, landscape, layout, all of these different factors that come into building a successful house.
But before even people get there, like how would you, like from a scenario, and so like I'm kind of going through a similar scenario as well in my neighborhood, because I purchased a house for $400,000 back in like 2015, and now there are homes that are being built in the $2 to $3 million range. So, those are the types of scenarios. But you got to make sure that when you're knocking down a house and you're rebuilding, that the cost makes sense. So you got to find a neighborhood that can support the comp.
Exactly.
So I think people have to figure out that.
You have to make sure you have a good real estate agent that can share those values with you and guide you from that perspective.
Yeah.
So you can see, oh, look, in my neighborhood, houses can sell for $3 million. And then you look at what square footage that is, what amenities they offer, and then get with your architect and builder team to put together a scenario that mimics what other people have done, but in your own style. Yeah.
Now, a lot of agents will say, hey, you build a $3 million house and it'll be worth $5 million. So watch out for those people.
Yes.
Have you met any of those people?
No, we got good people on our teams.
All right. Good to know. All right, Bill. So the 4 things that I want to talk about per scenario is basically the general timeline, because timeline is important. The cost obviously is one of the biggest factors involved. The scope of work, because not everybody kind of understands the work that's involved with each of these, and how you determine to get to one versus the other.
Okay.
And then the design process. Okay. So let's kind of go through that a little bit. Let's talk about, so we're in a new build right now. What's the general timeline from somebody from start to finish, from making the decision to tear a house down to being in their house?
Yeah, so these clients in specific bought the house and already had it under contract when they brought me in.
Yep.
So we looked at the house, they closed on it, and it took about 6 months to go through the design process of designing the architecture, the interiors, the landscape, putting that whole package together, and then submitting it to the city for the permit approval.
Right.
So that was about a 6-month process.
Yep.
And that can go shorter or longer depending on how familiar they are. These clients have built houses before, so it went pretty quickly.
Yep.
So while we're in the permitting process, we went ahead and tore down the house, got the building pad all ready. That only takes about 2 or 3 weeks. And then when the permits come through, a house this size, which is 5,600 square feet, we can turn this out in about 8 months.
Okay.
Up to a year, depending on how quickly clients get us all their decisions along the way.
Yep.
So this one in particular will be at about 1 year.
Okay. 1 year for the build time.
For the build time, yes.
And then when you add in the potential design and review, and that, so you're looking, I would say, in the 18 months to 2 year process is safe.
Correct.
Is a safe bet. Okay. All right. Well, I think it'd be helpful too, just to kind of talk about this particular home. that's under construction, and give an example of the scenario for these owners and why they decided, well, I think we understand why people decided to tear it down, but like what are they looking to do here?
So this client is from Seattle. They're moving to Arizona, and they came and chose this lot, and they bought the house on here specifically knowing they were going to tear it down. So They picked a good street with good neighbors, good views, and knew that this lot would fit the house that they wanted.
Yeah.
So we're standing now in the great room.
Well, I want to talk about that real quick because I think this makes sense for multiple scenarios. Number one, for people who are, we talk about whether you should stay in your house or list your house, stay or sell, for people that already live here. So for anybody who lives in the area, that could be a scenario. But we have, most of our viewers are coming in from out of state and they're trying to figure out, hey, do I try to buy a house that's already finished, or do I go ahead and maybe, again, knock something down, get what you want, and then do it, or then put it together maybe while you're still living in your other state. The next thing on my list that is always important, because these are the things I think of when I'm potentially going to try to do a project, is the design. And specifically, a lot of people may think that they're going to want to come in and hey, I'm going to pick out all the finishes. Do you guys have a process that helps people? Because in doing this as much as I have, as far as helping other clients too, there are so many people that really don't understand all the little small intricacies.
Daunting task to design a house.
Yeah.
So every single option, from your doors, your windows, your door handles, cabinets, hardware, light fixtures, plumbing fixtures, and those are just the things you see. Yep. There are 10,000 options per item.
Right.
So navigating it for somebody who hasn't done this before, we require our clients to bring an interior designer on board as part of the team.
Yeah.
Because they need guidance and selection, because it's important that the house is tailor-made for you, but in our society, we sell our houses and don't live there forever. So you need to think about resale as well and not go overboard with some eccentric things that somebody else isn't going to like or will cause the value of the home to go down because someone else would want to change it later on.
Well, not only that, but my experience is when you're working with designers, they can potentially try to fit things into your budget that kind of, when they understand your mindset on what you want the house to look like, they can maybe find some things that might make more sense from a budget perspective.
Correct. They have all different sources, and you can design the same style on many different budgets. So they can help pick and choose things that end up making your home perfect for you on your budget.
Yeah. No, it's a huge part of the process, and it's something that you got to understand, let people guide you in the right direction. And, obviously when Bill was talking about having the right team in place, that is a huge part of the team. And so it's something that's going to add some cost, but is something that's going to add a lot more value to you in the future.
Yes, the cost is well worth it, and it will speed things up, speed the process up. Overall, it's not a cost. It really is help and ease of process. And to have somebody that's looking for you and sourcing all of those different things for you as their job means you can carry on with your normal day-to-day life, your career, with your children, with your family, while the experts put this all together for you.
Yeah, most people don't want to think about a lot of this stuff. Let the pros handle it for sure.
Exactly.
All right, as we continue to kind of tour through, I want to talk about scope of work. Obviously on a new build, Bill, scope of work tends to be a little bit easier than most because everything is what is typically not included, because that's where I think people might get a little bit, if somebody's doing a quote, we'll talk about the kind of the cost involved with all these, but a lot of getting an understanding on what the cost involved is understanding how much work is done. So, this here, they've got a pool that's being built in back here. We'll kind of
on the new construction, there is getting your site development ready. So an interior lot like this is fairly simple, clearing any old structures, doing a building pad. So we usually turn over about 3 feet of dirt, remix it, recompact it, so you have a nice stable place to start digging your footings and all of that. But you also need to take into account retaining walls, site walls, perimeter walls. If you have a hillside lot, there may be tons of excavating, different levels and layers, and that requires engineering and soils reports and extra sets of permits to get that through all that phases. And then of course getting the pools, hot tubs, those kind of features in as well. Oftentimes on lots, you want to get the pool dug at the same time your foundation's going because of access. It was hard to get the equipment back there at any other point in time. So you got to coordinate all of that at the same time.
Right.
But otherwise, the scope on a new build is everything is new. So you just got to make sure it includes everything from the site work to the structure to the landscape and all of the perimeters as well, and all of the site improvements. We can bring in new gas lines, new power lines, new water lines. Yeah. All of that has to be thought of and pre-planned.
Yeah, definitely a lot involved. I think obviously the biggest question, like when people are going to reach out, we're kind of cruising into the master bathroom here. When people are going to make that first phone call to you, obviously the most important question for everybody is going to be like, how much is this going to cost me? Like, what is the budget for it? What do I need to know? Some people are lucky enough not to care, but I'm sure that if you're watching this video, you might care. And so give us a general idea. Like if somebody's reaching out, like how do you help people in that first phase of like deciding what it's going to cost them?
Of course. So not including the cost of your lot or your house that you currently own, there's really 3 levels of custom homes. There's your entry-level custom home, there's your luxury custom home, and your ultra-luxury custom home. So if somebody's coming in and they want something that's more of a moderate price range, they want to design it themselves, but they're not trying to get overboard with super high-end features, that would be your entry-level custom home. And right now, costs are at a minimum about $300 a square foot to build that from scratch on a nice, flat, easy lot. Yep. Of course, you have hillside and all that, it's going to come up. And moving up from there, your luxury custom home, where you're going to have a lot more designer features, higher end appliances, higher ceilings, nicer doors, windows, everything's upgraded. Those are looking about $500 to $600 a square foot right now. And then for our ultra luxury, which is top of the line everything, you're looking $800 to $1,000 a square foot.
Okay, yeah, so it can get up there quick. And so I think the understanding is, where do you kind of fall into that? Number one, does it make sense? Number two, where do you fall in? And the good news is there's a lot of examples that Bill can give to kind of guide you in the right direction on that as well. But this is important for people to know before they even decide to even think about this. So they're like, hey, what do I want to, what do I need size wise? What's it going to cost per square foot? And then where that doesn't include the lot. So you got to figure out, am I going to build on my own personal lot, or am I going to go find something that's a tear down? All right, Bill, as we kind of head up to the next project, I wanted to bring up another subject that is probably going to be on the top of people's minds when people are going through this, and that's how to pay for the projects. I know it sounds like a lot of people are paying cash right now. Are there any options that you know that people are doing with financing that makes sense that you know of?
So I think when it comes to new construction, there still are options available for new construction loans for a house. Typically people come and buy the lot or the land or have the house, and then you can refinance with a construction loan for big remodels, like very large full scale and new construction. When it comes to the smaller remodels, if somebody doesn't have the cash on hand but has some equity in their house, doing a HELOC is a great way to not interrupt your first mortgage that may be at a good interest rate, but be able to pull out some of your equity, do your remodel, and then you can always pay that loan off quicker, faster, so that the more expensive money gets paid off and you're just back to your original mortgage.
Yeah, that makes sense. And a lot of people are, this subject gets talked about a lot when it comes to people having their low interest rate and not wanting to get away from it. Like a lot of people who are, 3% or under don't want to walk away from those rates, but they have needs when it comes to having either a larger house or bringing their house up to date. And so maybe a HELOC makes sense if you don't have the cash.
And if you're doing a smaller remodel, just a kitchen, just a bathroom, there are small remodel loans through third-party companies, and some contractors work as brokers for those as well. So they can offer small financing, $50,000 to redo your kitchen or something like that.
Right.
That's more of a personal loan. So those options are available as well. So you'll talk to your contractor and see what's available, or you can look online as well.
Yeah, well, good to know. But yeah, it does seem like a lot of people are paying cash right now, so you're going to be up against that, and the financing is going to have the extra costs as well, because of what the HELOC rates now are 10% or so. So, be aware of that, and so make sure you're spending your money properly. All right, we're now traveling to South Scottsdale, and we're going to pick out a project that Bill has recently completed. And this is going to be more on the side of something that is going to be like a cosmetic remodel. So we want to give you kind of like a starter level of like what you guys might expect if you were going to go in and kind of do a cosmetic remodel. Bill, I'll let you kind of take us into this one, and we'll kind of talk through it.
So this project was sent to us by a client who's actually going to be selling the house, but just a quick cosmetic remodel, all new finishes inside, as you'll see.
So we're completed. They have it staged in here. So they did this as an investment in order to turn around and list it. All right, so we're going to tour this house, and we're going to kind of go through the 4 topics that we think you guys need to know when it comes to doing a remodel like this. We're going to talk about the design process. We're going to talk about the scope of work. We're going to talk about the timeline, and we're going to talk about the cost. So let's bring Bill back in here and talk about the design on something like this. Like if somebody's like, "Hey, Bill, I need your help. I've got this house that is older that needs to be brought up to date. I have some ideas in mind. I kind of want it to look like one of the houses you've done." Like, take people through what that design process looks like.
So this house has the same footprint. There was no changes made to any of it at all. So we don't need any architecture at all. It was a very simple over-the-counter permit. And we did bring in an interior designer to select all of our flooring, our countertops, cabinets. Same way we would in a new build or a bigger remodel. We need that interior design package to be selected that's appropriate for the budget of this project.
Yep.
So the interior designer gave us all our selections. We've gone through, ordered, placed, put them all in, and I think everything turned out really nice.
Yeah, it did. And I think it's important to kind of really understand, especially when you're talking about some of these kind of cosmetic remodels, like what that means, because, it changes a lot if you decide to start moving a wall here and there, or you open some stuff up, or if you start to redo the plumbing and the electric. I don't know, like in a house like this, did you have to redo any of the plumbing or electric, or was that?
Yes, there were some minor updates to electrical plumbing. Switches were in the wrong spot, so we moved those to where they made sense.
Okay.
We fixed the kitchen layout a little bit, so that included moving a little bit of electrical, moved a gas line, and then a few plumbing for some of the new showers and baths in there.
And I think it's important to kind of, when you talk about the design, because then you get into the scope of work, because it's like, okay, what does it include? And so when you're talking about a scope of work with this type of project, would you typically include, not every house is going to need new plumbing and new electrical, but when we're talking about these older houses, they tend to. So would you say that is part of like how you would talk about a cosmetic remodel?
Very, very typically, they all need to be touched. We often come in and we scope the sewer lines and whatnot in the older houses. A lot of them built with cast iron, have big holes in them, have tree roots growing through them. So when we have the house all gutted down, that's the time when you want to go replace those things if they need to be replaced.
Right.
So there's always a level of uncertainty.
There's nothing better than having a brand new designed home and then the plumbing mess. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, always fun.
And that's the time when to get it done. When everything's open, make sure you check all of those systems, because there's a level of uncertainty in every remodel, and you want to get those things covered before it's too late.
Makes sense. All right, as we walk through a little bit more here and kind of take a look, talk about the timeline people should expect on a project like this.
So this project, everything's going much quicker. When the house is acquired, probably need about 30 days to come up with an interior design package and to acquire the building permit. So only about 30 days of prep time. And then from when we actually started construction to when we handed the keys back to the owner, it was 4 months.
Okay.
So pretty quick.
Yeah. So, if you're in this situation where maybe you can get out of your house, but you don't have as much time that you can just get away for a long period of time, maybe this is the type of situation that makes your life a little bit easier, where you can break away for a little bit of time, or maybe you're in another state and maybe you don't need as much time before you're coming down here.
And of course, your size of house is going to also change the time frame. This is a smaller 2,000 square foot house. It takes us 4 months. If you've got a 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 square foot house, it's going to take longer.
Yeah.
But typically in this scenario, we can take on pretty much any project with a reasonable square footage in under 6 months.
Okay. And then, obviously, talk about the cost of something like this and what people should expect. Would you do it in a cost per square foot basis, or do you guys price it out differently?
So it's still a cost per square foot. you're going to want to budget a minimum of $100 a square foot doing a cosmetic remodel.
Okay.
That can go up if you have plumbing issues, electrical issues. That can quickly go to $150 a foot if you have to replace those systems.
Yep.
Air conditioning as well, another big system. So if you start getting into that level, it's going to be more, $150 a foot. As we get into bigger homes, nicer finishes, we can easily hit $200 a foot. Ultra luxury remodels can be over $300 a foot just on cosmetics alone.
Yep. And then when people are trying to price it out, like, you've got, is this hardwood here?
It is, yes. European white oak.
So it's nice. I mean, a lot of times you're seeing some of these remodels being done and you're seeing a lot of the wood look tile and stuff like that. So it's important to understand like what you're going to get from a style perspective too. So how do people kind of generally is there a way to kind of make people understand, it's like, hey, you're going to get wood versus tile, or you're going to get these type of fixtures? Like, how do you help people? Of course,
the client's going to help guide that with the interior designer for what they want.
Yep.
And as a builder in the area, I always try to give the best guidance of what other people are doing, what other people expect to be in a home.
Yeah.
So it's every area is different. In Scottsdale, we're going to expect real wood floors. If we're in another part of town and the wood look tile will be acceptable. So you really just got to make sure you update it to the level that the neighborhood really requires in order to get your full money out of the remodel.
Right. Because I would say, I think Bill would agree with me, nothing's worse than going and doing a project like this and then not being able to get that money back out of it when you go to sell it, because maybe you picked the wrong interiors, maybe you decided to go with something a little bit less that doesn't match what the price point needs to be in order for you to get what you need.
Yep, exactly. It goes back to our team, having the right team. Builder that knows the area, designer that knows the area. Always good to talk with the real estate agent as well to get their perspective, because they, at the end of the day, see more houses than anybody else.
Yeah.
So they can really help guide you into what they're seeing in all of the new homes in the area and what to expect.
I mean, nobody trusts realtors. Do you really trust any realtors to give you that info? I don't know, Bill. I don't know. All right, and then the other thing that I always like to kind of talk about is potential surprises, things that maybe weren't expected with the process, because as you're going to talk to a lot of people, maybe you've gone through this yourself in the past, and so there's always things that pop up that you might not know about. So I don't know. I mean, we can talk about this house in particular, if there was anything, or any other things that you can think of as far as surprises.
Every remodel comes with surprises. It's the nature of the game. You need to plan for that. We have a budget and a target where we're trying to be, but there are unknowns. And so we go over that with the clients every time. Make sure you understand this is a possibility, this is a possibility, this is a possibility. Typically, once we get back into the drywall and finishing phase, there's no more surprises. But early on, this house, for example, the city of Scottsdale decided to make us put in fire sprinklers. Yep. So that was an unexpected cost, and we did not anticipate having to do. But due to the electrical and plumbing changes we had to make, which were minor, it then qualified for needing fire sprinkler system put into the house. So we had to run a new water meter, larger water meter, new fire alarm, and sprinkler system all throughout the entire house.
Yeah. Well, and that's important to know. And I think when you're in city to city, Phoenix versus Scottsdale, because Scottsdale requires that on most remodels, and I don't know if that's just ones that require a permit or depending on what type of the scope of work you're doing. So getting back to scope of work, sometimes that may be required, sometimes it may not. The city's going to make that decision for you, but good to know when you're shopping from, in certain areas. Yep. Is it just Scottsdale, or is there any other areas?
All of the building departments in Phoenix have fire sprinkler codes. Scottsdale is much quicker, much smaller target amount of, once you hit a certain threshold of remodel, they'll make you put a whole system in.
Gotcha.
In Phoenix, they don't make you do it until you hit a 5,000 square foot mark of a house.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yep.
All right, back on the road again. Bill, why don't you tell people a little bit about, how long you've been in the business and kind of little background, your story and what you're doing.
Of course. So I started off in real estate actually back around 2005, and after doing that for a few years, I got interested in flipping homes. So I would find homes to buy, remodel, and sell them. And after doing that for a couple of years and hiring contractors to work for me, I found that it was difficult to find somebody that understood what I wanted done and how to get it done efficiently and effectively. And I think it was 2012, when I got my own contractor license and started doing it myself for myself. And after doing that for a couple of years, people started calling on my signs and wanting me to do work for them as well. And now my business has fully transitioned into only working for clients in all price ranges, anything from $500,000 starter homes in Scottsdale up through $10 or $12 million luxury estates in Paradise Valley. And I really enjoy the process of working with the clients and seeing their visions that they start with, and then how we work through them with the design team and the architects, and then making them all come to life. And it's very rewarding to see these houses and being able to drive down the streets and know that you built that house and that family is living in there and enjoying it, and become friends with most of my clients, and I really enjoy the process.
Yeah, and seeing how they all turn out years later, because you and I have worked together on a lot of things, and I mean, just going back through the years and seeing some of the houses that you had been a part of and built, and seeing how popular they are still today, it's been a fun process for me to see as your friend, but also to see the development and where you're at today. So, but I wanted Bill to talk about it and share that, just because you're a young guy, but you've had a ton of time and experience in the business and a lot of success as well.
And I think it's also important. It shows how important it is when you have the right team and design the right house, that the house can be relevant for 10, 12 plus years.
Right.
Built them that long ago and they're still trading for top dollar.
Right. Well, it's funny because you see other builders, if you try to go on more of a budget-friendly type situation, everybody's got their budget they're working with, but you can tell when certain builds are done at just like the minimum style and effort possible, and
versus a quality build.
You see that a lot going on. So it's important. Want to make sure you guys know that when you're considering who to call. All right, our third project of the day brings us up to North Scottsdale. We're here up in Greyhawk, and I'll swing around to the house in front of us. And Bill, this house is one of the middle end of the gut remodel. So this is more extensive, obviously, than your cosmetic remodel that we just visited in Scottsdale. Obviously, you don't have to tear it down, but a very big scope of work. And we're going to go inside their mid process right now. Everything's been teared out, so we're going to take a look and kind of talk about it, and just kind of help people go through the process.
Let's head inside.
All right. So as we get into the entry here, I mean, you can already see things are being pulled up. You got windows out. We'll see, obviously, that it's a big project, but it'll give you kind of a general idea on what people are thinking. And this, we were talking in the first house when we were talking about new construction, what people are doing regarding age-wise, but in these type of gut remodels, this was something was built, what, in the 90s, maybe the early 2000s?
Early 2000s, so about 20-year-old house.
Yep.
Great bone structure, high ceilings, big windows. This particular plan had a break in the wall here, so it was a little chopped up. So we removed that center wall to create the great room effect here.
Yeah.
Have everything wide and open. Now these clients had already updated their kitchen recently.
Yep.
So we've protected all that, removed everything around it. But the rest of the house, as we'll see as we go around, has been removed. Ceilings, drywall, flooring, the walls. We've cut trenches into the floors, get new plumbing involved, and new underground electrical as well. And
since this house is only like 20 years old, what was the reason for needing new plumbing and electrical?
So it was just a moving of items.
Okay.
So there was a fireplace in the wall here, and now we're doing a freestanding fireplace.
Okay.
We've opened up a ton of walls. There were a lot of walls in here. You can see on the ground kind of where the old walls used to be.
Yep.
So as we open those up, we got to bring the electrical up, and then we'll start rewiring it actually tomorrow. Starts putting everything back together.
Okay. And so in like the other two, we're going to go through the 4 topics we think you need to know about. So we're going to talk about the design. We're going to talk about the scope of work. We're going to talk about the timeline you should expect and cost. Bill, let's talk about design first. Like when somebody comes to you with this type of house, like what's the first steps when it comes to the design?
So bringing our designer on board, actually in this particular project, the designer was already in place.
Yep.
And then brought us in to help perform all the work. But one of the great things that we do here is that we have the designers post all of the details of what these places are going to look like with dimensions, measurements,
and all the features so that we can prepare. So here you can see we've got the TV is going to be going in the middle with a cabinet underneath and then 2 bookshelves with some floating shelves. So if we step back, we can see we've got that all framed in and ready for that. And tomorrow when the electricians come, they'll place the lights exactly where it's specified, and that whole area can come out exactly as we planned.
Trying to get everything into frame so you guys can see it as well. So super helpful on that. Are those throughout the house then? As you guys are
so
doing
every
work?
bathroom, every design feature wall will have these design boards on the wall so that all our trades can be aware of what's going here, ask questions up front, and not mess something up because of the lack of information.
So the designer, like really the designer is one of the first, so they come in and kind of get a general idea on what you want to change as far as walls inside the house and like how big of a project it's going to be.
Exactly. And we do have a floor plan that shows walls that get removed and all of that. And we had to get permits for this project as well, being that we're moving plumbing and electrical and removing walls.
Gotcha. And I would imagine there's like a cost and a timeline just for the design portion before you even get started on this too. So
Correct,
is it similar to the new
designer
build?
was probably on board 3 to 4 months prior to the start of work.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of process involved.
Okay. We're going to walk into the master bathroom here and talk about scope of work. Every project like this is going to be a little bit different, but again, going through some of these is going to kind of help you generally get an idea, like how much work needs to be done, and talk about the scope of work and how it's going to change, and I guess use this one as an example here.
Sure. So for this particular room, the entryway into the master here as well, this foyer, there's a makeup vanity that's going out here. There's a little wall that walled it in before. It was very dark. So we've opened that up, and we have these new pantry and shoe bench there so you can put your shoes on, makeup bench. We've raised the ceiling up here as well because it was lower. And then in the master, we kept a very similar layout, just removing some walls that kind of framed it in to help open the space up. So you'll have your sink and your tub, another sink over here. And then we've got a wonderful shower that we've built here. And this one, as you can see, all the plumbing in here, body sprays, handheld, rain shower, all controlled from 3 different valve systems. So it's a pretty complex shower. And then we have 2 drains in the bottom here so that all the water will slightly tilt back to the back here in a big long linear drain that'll look very nice when it's all finished. And then we also have the steam function in here as well. So you'll be able to use it as a steam shower.
Yeah, let me be somebody to tell you, like, I don't know how many people go through and they do these huge, massive showers and they have like one shower head. Like maybe you've seen that before. Bill's probably seen that once or twice before. I have no idea why certain remodelers or investors or builders, whoever they're doing that. Obviously, Bill is much smarter than that.
Yeah, it doesn't cost very much to add a whole other shower head system, maybe a couple $1,000s. But that way, 2 people can get ready at the same time, shower, different temperatures. All your stuff is preset to use. So you walk in, turn it on, it has your correct temperature, your correct pressure, and you get to business. And then
I'm kind of looking up at the ceilings here. You guys have all the drywall pulled out up top in the, all the rooms in the main room too. Like, what are you guys doing as far as up top? Pulling out all the drywall and redoing
drywall,
all the
insulation all came down just because of all the plumbing we had to move around. And changing the ceiling heights. I had to reduct some air conditioning ducts through here to help raise that ceiling because there were some ducts in the way.
Yeah.
And then we took in, there's a big arch window that'll be going in the center here as well.
Okay.
When you're changing a lot of things in a ceiling, you get an effect we call the Swiss cheese effect, where you have all these holes from moving an AC vent, moving a light, moving some plumbing. And then when you go to patch it in, it just always looks like crap.
Yeah.
So in cases of a master bedroom, we just take it all down and start over. It's a much better finished product.
Yeah. And then one other thing I'm noticing, since we talked about it in the last house in Scottsdale, we're in North Scottsdale here. So I see the sprinklers. Now, these sprinklers might have been existing before? Or?
Correct. So because this house was built in, after the 90s when they started enforcing fire sprinklers, then they are already in here. Yep. But of course, we have modifications to the system. So as we're moving ceiling heights and changing locations of rooms and walls, so they will come through and readjust all of these.
Yeah.
So they're per code.
But they can still be reused, hopefully, for the most part.
Yep.
Okay. Good to know that you don't have to replace everything when kind of going through as much work as you're looking at these types of things.
So as we're walking back here to the other side,
we had some downtime while we were waiting for some of this underground stuff to happen. And the configuration of the kids' wings of bedrooms and bathrooms didn't change very much. So we went ahead and started finishing over here. So as we come back in here, you'll see that even though we're still in the very early stages in this part of the house, we've already started finishing in this wing. So we've got some protection down on the floors, but you can see as inside here that we have the walls done, the floors done, toilets even in. So tomorrow we start drywall repairs back here, baseboards, paint. In 2 weeks, this whole back area will be done.
Okay.
And that'll include this middle media room here. We've got a really cool feature that's going in, which is a water bottle filler. So on your way to the garage, you can fill up your water bottle.
Huh, that's cool. Little details that just hopefully make things a little bit more fun and add some convenience. And then we're talking about timeline a little bit. Why don't we kind of tell the audience, you know, when you have a project like this, what you should expect. Again, it's hard to give
every
exact time frame.
Every project's different. This particular one we started in July, and we will be finished by the end of November. So it's about 5 months.
Okay, not bad.
Not too bad. Mostly finishes with some of the underground stuff, but it is a 4,000 square foot house, so larger house takes a little more time.
Yep, makes sense. We'll go take a look out back as well, and then again, like, try to understand what the cost of like something like this is. But Bill, do you want to explain some of the details you did out here as well?
Sure. So we had 4 columns out here before. Well, 3 columns. We took out the 2 middle ones here to help expand the view, because the column was right in the middle of that set of doors, and we have another big accordion door coming into this area. Another post is right in the middle. So we upgraded the beam size, went and spread that across, and then we'll re-stucco that, make it look like it was never there.
Yep.
And that's also they can enjoy this golf course view lot that they own.
Yeah, I think, you know, here's an example of why maybe somebody's going to come in and redo their current situation, because if you tried to find a home that sits up against the golf course, has the location you like, and has all the finishes you like, I mean, it's insane right now what the costs are for some of the houses. So these are the types of situations that make sense where people are like, hey, look, I can get out of my house for 6 to 8 months if you can kind of bring it up to date and give me what I need. One of the things that I almost forgot to bring up, Bill, and I think it's probably one of the most important steps of the process, is communication. Because if somebody, especially for somebody who might be out of town and trying to manage this, like, how do you guys handle communication with the clients when it comes to taking care of projects like this?
So yeah, it's definitely unique. Every situation is unique. Clients that live in town, some are out of town, some are out of the country while we're building. So we use a program called Builder Trend. It's a very robust program that captures all of our scheduling, all of our bids, our estimates, budget tracking, all communication. All the designers are linked into it, putting all of their designs into there, all the blueprints, the permits. Every single aspect of your project is in the system, and the clients have a login, so they have access to see everything on a daily basis. When those project managers come by, they check in. It has the weather report. It tells you who was at the job site today, and that way, if there's questions or comments or concerns, everything is tracked, monitored, and you have real-time access.
And you can just pick up your phone.
Yep, yeah, literally.
Look at it.
There's an app for your phone. Yep. So you're plugged in.
Amazing. Of course, everything's on your phone now, but this is helpful. I mean, that's like important information. Probably the most important thing you can be looking at on your phone every day.
And if you're not organized, these projects can turn sour very quickly. You have to be on top of it. You have to be talking to every sub every day. And there's 100 different companies that build your house. Right. So it is a massive practice of project management to build a house and do a remodel, and it's important that you have somebody that understands that. So it's not only just about communication between you and the builder, it's about everybody communicating on the team. I mean, Bill brought it up in the first part of the video when it comes to the team process and like how many people are involved to be on this team to make it a successful project for you. So understandably, you've got to have a way to make sure that is tracked. Yep. Team's number one.
All right, guys, a lot of info to take in, but all very important if you're considering doing something like this. If you're considering a build, if you're considering a major remodel, even a cosmetic remodel, understanding what might be right for you and the potential options you have, and really understanding, you know, what it all is going to, or what's going to be involved with the whole thing. And if you guys have any questions, reach out to us. We're here to help. Bill has done something extremely nice and said, hey, for anybody who reaches out to us from the Living in Phoenix content, he'll offer like a free design.
Yep, we'll do a free design and builder consult for you. We'll come in, look at your project, show us kind of what you're looking for, put together a whole preliminary overview of what your project is and budget is, so you can see if this is something you want to proceed with.
Yeah, so that's huge, and you know, we appreciate that. We appreciate you guys checking this out. If you have any questions, reach out to us, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, however you want to get a hold of us. We got your back, and until the next video, we'll catch you later.
And I'm just gonna think out loud. Unless you're recording and I shouldn't be thinking out loud. So yeah, I'm failing.